Hi, welcome to the second video about mince pies. Yesterday we had a look at the filling and how to make your shop bought filling a little bit more interesting, and today we're going to make the pastry and assemble the pies and then cook them, and you can see how delicious they are. So now we're going to look at the ingredients that you're going to use for your mince pies, and you only need 3. So you need some plain flour, you need some sugar, caster sugar, and you need some butter. So it's 350 grams of plain flour, 100 grams of caster sugar, and 225 grams of butter. Now this actually makes quite a few mince pies, so you've got some options here. You can either split that recipe down and not make the full amount, or you can make the full amount but freeze some. The reason I say that is because the mince pies are much better on the day or the day after that they're made. So if you make a massive batch of them and you haven't got loads of people coming, then that's rather a lot of mince pies for you to eat. So I normally, if I'm just going to make a small batch, I divide the recipe by 5 and then I just times it by however many I want. So it's entirely up to you, but I will show you how to make the full amount. If you decide that you're going to do the full amount, you can freeze the pies once that you've made them. So I'll show you that as well as we go. So we're going to start off by sieving our flour into the bowl. You don't have to do this, but obviously you get all the lumps out. Just makes a nicer pastry. Okay. Then we're going to add our sugar and the butter. Now the butter definitely needs to be at room temperature, because this pastry is going to have nothing in it apart from this butter to bind it together. So if it's too cold, it's going to be really difficult to make the pastry. So definitely have it at room temperature. I'm just going to pop that in. Then I'm going to wash my hands. Just got a little bit more butter to get in there. Now, the warmer your hands, the better for this pastry. I know normally you're supposed to have cold hands when you do pastry, but this one you need to have nice warm hands. And what we're going to do, if you can see this in this one, you can. We're just going to break the butter and just rub it into the flour. You are eventually going to end up with it looking like breadcrumbs. This is absolutely brilliant, this pastry. Once you've made this pastry, you will not want to make anything else. But it is a little bit different to normal pastry in so much that you're not using water to bind it together. So it seems a bit sort of strange, but you've just got to go with the flow. So I discovered this recipe about 10 years ago, and it's been a firm favourite ever since. I end up making many mince pies for other people, and I'm going to show you what I do with that as well, because there's a handy little tip. You end up getting quite a good workout with this, and also quite tired hands by the time you're finished. So I'm just rubbing that butter into the flour, hopefully you can see that. It's starting to get a bit crumbly now, but I'm going to keep going because I want all that butter to mix in. I don't want big lumps of butter in there. I'm quite lucky because I've got really warm hands, so it helps to just soften that butter as you go, and that's quite important with this pastry. I'll just show you this up close to see if you can see that. It's starting to get like breadcrumbs. So I'm now going to get in there with one hand. I always make a lot of mess as well when I do this. And I'm just going to try and bring it together into a lump. This is quite easy to do, to make if you've got young children as well, or any children really, because you don't actually have to roll this pastry. You can sort of mould it as if it was like Play-Doh. So this is a good one to do with the kids. Now I don't need to worry about it being all together in one ball, but as you can see it started to get a bit lumpy now, and I can actually get it into what resembles pastry. It will seem to be fairly crumbly, but that's fine, that's what we want. So because I'm not binding this together with any water, I don't want to add any more flour to this if I roll it. That's really, really important, because if you add flour to it, it's already quite crumbly, it's just going to be impossible to work with. So I always roll this between either greaseproof paper or cling film. Today I'm going to use some cling film, so I shall just get that. My handy assistant has handed me the cling film. Okay, so I'm going to put one piece on the bottom, one piece for the top. Sometimes you might have to sort of wet the surface so that cling film sticks to it, otherwise you end up sort of going all over the counter. Just get my rolling pin, and I'm going to put a lump onto the cling film and just sort of flatten it a little bit with my hands. See, what you'll find is that it goes all really, really crumbly, but that's okay. So I'll show you what I do with that. I'm going to cover the top because I'm not adding any more flour. Just get a little bit off my hands. And then I'm going to roll. So I'll roll it like this, obviously. And then I take the top off and fold it in like that. So all those crumbly bits will end up going into the pastry, and the more you roll it, it's a bit like kneading something, the more you roll it, the more it will stick together, because if you have it too crumbly you'll never get it out of the tin once you finish, so it needs to be fairly solid. Okay, so that's a good start. I just kind of feel over the top to make sure it's nice and even, and once I've cut one I can see whether or not it's the right sort of thickness. That feels alright to me. So I'm just going to take my top bit of cling film and I'm going to get my tin. So I'm using a little mini muffin tin, and the reason I use this is because it's that they're nice and small when you finish with them, so you get like 2 or 3 bites out of a mince pie. They are extremely rich, so you know 1 or 2 of those is going to be more than enough, unless you're my husband who'll have about 6. But I think they're a manageable size, so this is why I do them in a mini muffin tin. Could you pass me the cutters, please? Thank you. So I need 2 cutters, one for the bottom, one for the lid, and you always want to have the cutters slightly bigger than what you're putting it into. So if I hold this up to the camera, this one is the one that I'm going to use for the bottom, so it's just slightly over. So let's just cut. And then I can just get them off quite easily. If it crumbles at this point or falls apart, you just put it back into the pastry and re-roll it. So it's not a problem. It's quite. You could, if you wanted to, make the pastry, stick it in the fridge, and then take it out sort of half an hour before you want to use it. and then, you know, just to warm it up, you can roll it then. This is so different to other pastries in the fact that you don't need to chill it before you use it. You can just use it straight away. I'm only going to make one small tin at the moment, and the rest I'm going to do for the freezer. So I just need to make another bottom. See, I told you I'll make a mess. So getting that all back in. Cling film goes back over the top. Roll it again. Hopefully all this rolling is not juddering the camera too much. Apologies if it is. Okay, so I need one more base for that. Okay, so let's just move that out of the way slightly. And I'm going to bring in the tin, and I'm just going to gently poke that down into the tin. Now, this one's split, but don't worry about it, because I can take a bit of this pastry from the bowl and just patch it, and you'll never know on the finished mince pie. So I should just carry on and get all of those in. Never been so quiet in this house as it is at the moment. Best thing about homemade pies is you don't really need to worry about what they look like either, because they're going to taste so good, nobody's going to care what they look like. Just patch that one. You don't want the filling coming out the bottom. Last one. Okay, so they're now ready for the filling. Just got one more that I just need to patch in there. Okay, so now I'm going to put the filling inside. This is the filling that we had, well, this is my homemade one, with just a little bit of what I had left over. So 2 spoons and fill it. Don't be afraid to put plenty of filling in there, because the last thing you want is when you open a mince pie or you bite into it and it's half air with a tiny bit of watery filling at the bottom. It's just not satisfying, is it? So let's get a nice amount of filling in there. I just want it to be slightly proud of the top of the pie. This just smells amazing already, and I haven't even put them in the oven yet. Yeah, nice and big and juicy the fruit is. I use vegetable suet when I'm making my filling, because you never know whether somebody who's vegetarian is going to want a mince pie. So if you use animal suet, you know, they can't have it. So it tastes the same, might as well use the vegetable one. Oh, that's a bit mean, that one. Just put a little bit more in there. so that's the filling done. So now I'm going to make the lids. So you just need the slightly smaller cutter. You can make it with the fancy shape on it if you like, or you can just do it with a normal one. Oh, yeah. Let's just put these on the top. I'm not going to use that one because it was slightly ripped, so I'll just roll that again. Let's move that to one side. Put that in again. Once you get the hang of this pastry is really easy, but it seems really weird when you first try it. Don't want the lids to be too thin because they'll just break. And the rest of them I'm going to do with the other side. So 2 more, I can get that out of this, easy. You might find that sometimes your cling film will rip when you just get another bit. Okay, so now I'm just going to lightly tap the edges down. They will seal themselves, so you don't need to worry too much, but we don't want loads of filling coming out the sides. And then I just need a knife to give them an air hole. And those are ready to go in the oven, which I'm going to do in a minute. Now I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with the rest of this pastry. So, I often make these for other people because I get asked all the time, and I've still got, as you can see, quite a bit of pastry left. Now I could just wrap this up and put this in the fridge and use it another day, but I'm going to just show you what I do when I make them for other people, or if you want to make them to use another day. So like on Christmas morning, it would be nice to have nice fresh mince pies. So if you've already got them made, you can just take them out, defrost them and put them in the oven and cook them. Brilliant. But I haven't got enough tins where I can just make them in the tin and freeze them in the tin, so that I do it slightly differently. So let's just roll that again. Excuse me, I'm just going to get my tins. Now, I buy these little, here we go, pie tins, just gold, foil, silver foil tins, and you can work out what size. See, that's too small, so let's work out what size we want, and I think that's going to be the right, let's get that down there, the right size. So I just cut it out and lay it in the tin, and you can just kind of press it in so you get a nice neat edge, like so. Then we're going to fill it. Can you see this? Let's bring this down here. Can you see that? Yes. So we're going to fill that, put plenty of filling in this. This would be kind of how big they would be if you were making them in a normal muffin tin. There we go. Now, I need a reasonable size lid for that. So I reckon the same again. Over the top. That's ready to go into the freezer, so I can use up the rest of this and make some to put in the freezer to cook at a later date. Okay, I'm going to put this in the, actually I better heat the oven up. So the mince pies have been in the oven. I've got them out of the oven, here they are. They went in at 160 degrees centigrade, which is 320 degrees Fahrenheit or gas mark 3, and they took about 12 minutes. So whilst that was going on and they were cooking away in the oven, I finished off making pies for the freezer and cleared up. So as you can see, it's made 12 large pies and 12 mini pies. I normally only cook the mini pies at big, but if you do a whole full batch of pastry, that makes about sort of 35 to 40 small mince pies, depending on how thick you make the pastry, and it does about 20, 22 of these larger ones. So you know, if you're wanting to break the pastry down, it just gives you an idea of how much the full recipe makes. So these have been in the oven for 12 minutes, and I've left them in the tin for 5-10 minutes just for them to cool down, because when they come out, the pastry is really soft, and if you try and take them out of the tin straight away, they will just break up and just become a sort of pastry mince pie goo, crumbly mess on the top. So you've got to let them cool a little bit, and then the next important thing is to twist. So let me show you what you do. So you take each mince pie and you just give it a twist in the tin. Now the reason that we're going to do this is because we want to make sure that they're loose enough that we can lift them out. Because the pastry is so short and crumbly, if you don't do that and you try and get them out, they're just going to fall apart. So I'm just going to now take them out, and you can see how nicely cooked they are. You could put an egg wash on this if you want to before it goes in the oven, but I like them rustic. They don't have to look perfect, they're homemade. The recipe says that you should sprinkle them with icing sugar, but I think they're sweet enough already, so I don't do that. But if you wanted to make them look pretty, you could do a dusting of icing sugar. Oh, they smell about, oh look, see, there you go. That's mine, that one. Let's try that again, let's just take that. My husband's kindly told me I'm allowed 3 out of this batch. Right, so there we go. Let's get rid of that. Don't need the oven gloves. So there we have it, some amazingly delicious mince pies. I'm going to just get a plate to put that one on, and then I'm going to show you what it's like inside. The pastry does split a little bit at the top because I like to pack it full of mincemeat. If you wanted them to look, you know, more pristine, you could just maybe not fill them quite so much, and then the pastry wouldn't crack like it has done there. But anyway, I'm going to put this on. And then I will show you how much filling there is on the inside. But actually I'm going to cut one of these ones open. Let's do that here. Can you see this? No, we can't see this. Let's move these out of the way. So, I'm just going to cut this open. You can hear a nice, satisfying sounding pastry, and as you can see, the pies are absolutely packed with mincemeat. So I shall just try it. Normally I'd have this with, you know, maybe a cup of tea, but as it's Christmas, it's time for port. Delicious. pastry is so light and crumbly. It's absolutely amazing. Merry Christmas. And there we have it, mince pies. So if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and I think that's all I have to say on this matter. So Merry Christmas, hope you have a great one, enjoy your mince pies, see you soon.